All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, whatever you're joining us from. I'm very happy to have you here for our August user call. The topic for today is the AI gateway pattern. We have Silvano here with us. He will introduce himself in just a little bit. This webinar is being recorded. I will share the recording with you in a follow-up email afterwards with some additional resources. You will also be able to find the recording on our YouTube channel. You can see on the bottom, there is a chat and there's also a Q&A function. So please, whatever questions you want to ask Silvano, just put them in the Q&A function so we can keep track of the questions. He will answer all of your questions right after he's done presenting. So yeah, Silvano, please take it away from here.
Hello, everyone. As you already know, my name is Silvano. I joined Kong 3.5 months ago as the director of product management for the runtimes. So Gateway, Kubernetes, Mesh, et cetera, et cetera. This is my first webinar, so super excited to be here and talk, about like one of the most interesting thing that I've seen at Kong since I joined, which is our effort in the AI area with providing a gateway and plugins for a better usage of AI in an organization. One thing that is very interesting is before coming to Kong, I was working at Shopify, and I was working in an area where we were trying to use AI for a bunch of cool stuff. And I really experienced like firsthand a lot of the problems that we are providing solutions for with the plugins. So, something that I really enjoyed seeing coming together. Let's go through this presentation where we will talk about how you can accelerate AI transformation in your company, in your organization, using Kong AI plugins and the AI gateway. As you might know, here at Kong, our mission is to power the API world. So APIs are really important for us. And it's crazy to see like the growth of usage of API, and now this is driven by digital demand. In this curve, I still remember when between the 2007 of the mobile and cloud, I moved to California, I joined Google, and we were like in that transformation of everything needs to go to mobile. So more and more APIs are going out, like Google itself was getting out so many APIs for all sorts of developers. And it was really like the start of this API economy that then grew even more like with cloud, where everything is an API if you're working in the cloud. Patterns and architectural patterns like microservices for the simplification of monolith application into smaller pieces that are all APIs and services like calling each other. And then really like the two more recent explosion, COVID, everything goes even more online for the needs of people. And then Gen AI that, I still remember the day like in when somebody told me like, hey, you need to look at this thing. It's really cool. And it was OpenAI. And it was indeed really cool. In a way, like it made me think about 20 years earlier, first time somebody showed me like Google search and, I could actually find the things that I was looking for in the internet. And Gen AI was, really crazy. And I think almost immediately, like everybody was, jumping on what they could do in their own applications using Gen AI. Which leads us to, there's a lot of things that you can do. Applications are probably like a lot of applications today, like they try to use different providers of large language models in the cloud to power some new features, to improve some existing feature. People building AI agents are using like some sort of self-hosted model for the AI agent that they are building. People are building chatbots that can use all of the above, but also have some additional like requirements when it comes to improve the quality of the responses of the chatbot on some specific domains with fine-tuning, like it's one of the most diffused techniques. And then I think other use cases, but all of these use cases are really starting to get into using vector DBs for different things, right? Mostly retrieval augmented generation, or adding some layers of semantic evaluation of what the users are doing for different reasons. Improve the quality of the results, again, on some specific domain, or try to get better at the responses, getting better at understanding like what is the real meaning of what the user is trying to do. And we will talk a little bit more about each of these in the rest of the presentation. Now, if we look at what all these different use cases need when they talk to all these APIs, basically, because all of them are APIs, there's different use cases, but a lot of them are really repeated across. And there's the need for some sort of transformation. There's the need for limiting how many tokens are sent to the LLM providers. If you tried using AI, you know that it's powerful. It's not really cheap, and the more tokens you send, the more you pay. And really the traditional authentication and authorization to make sure that only authorized users and application can access your service. And analytics, know what is working, what is not working in your app. These are the ones that are a little bit more traditional. And then there's a bunch that are emerging that are more really tied to some specific of the AI. And for example, there's multiple LLMs providers, which one to use and how to make it easy to switch between different providers for evaluation, or even for fallback, just to understand which one can perform better, or if one is down or is not replying, use another one as a fallback. Other things that are pretty common are sanitization of the prompts, the moment that users can, ask questions that will have replies that are generated by an LLM. Some things, might be better not to ask for in a certain way. In a way, there's a lot of protection that is built in all the providers of LLM. But in an organization, there might be some specific topics that we want to make sure users that are using our apps cannot ask. And so this is where really the concept of the AI gateway becomes extremely useful in this type of scenario, and especially the Kong API gateway, because it's the gateway that can sit between all the applications, all the use cases on the left side, and all the providers of AI-related service on the right side, and then mediate access, providing some of the traditional API management areas that we talked about, authentications and rate limiting, but also some of the functionalities that are and policies that are more specific to AI. And just to give you a little bit of a sense of how this fits into Kong's overall offering, API gateway is the traditional, the most powerful and the most used open source gateway in the world for APIs. We have the ingress controller, which is a gateway specifically for Kubernetes environment. We have the Kong mesh for east-west traffic, between your services, with MTLS, observability, and all the features of a modern mesh. And now the AI gateway becomes the fourth pillar of our ability to let you manage and control traffic to API and services with these specific functionalities for AI. And on top of all of this, in case you are not already familiar with it, sits Kong Connect that really simplifies the management of all of these through a traditional SaaS interface with a rich UI and a lot of things that we manage for you. So going a little bit back to our AI gateway, this is really a set of plugins in Kong. If you know already like how the Kong gateway works, Kong gateway comes with a core that basically allows you to define the basic concept of the API routing, like services, upstreams, et cetera, et cetera. Then there's a lot of plugins that allow you to extend the basic functionality of routing with authentication and authorization, rate limiting, caching, retries, and a lot more services. And on top of those standard plugins, we now added some plugins that are specific for AI. And really, at the very basic one, like the foundation of everything is the AI proxy, where through a unified API interface, you can access like the different LLMs providers with requests that are basically the same, and where we take care of then transforming the request according to what is the spec for the specific provider. If you try to play a little bit with AI, probably seeing the format of OpenAI when you want to send a request is slightly different than the format of all the others. We take care of giving you a common interface, and then based on the provider that you're trying to reach, create the right request in the right format that they expect. And so this is really about giving you one API to rule all the different providers. On top of this, we have some specific AI security and observability plugins and features that we provide, not necessarily with a specific plugin, but for example, like in the case of the credentials, I've seen this firsthand. Very few organizations want every developer in the organization to use their own individual credentials to access a provider. But because you go through the proxy, then what you can do is the actual credential to access OpenAI or Cohere or Azure or any of the other provider is in the proxy. And then you give to your users credentials to access the proxy. And so in this way, they can access the LLM provider without actually knowing the real credential to access the provider. And on top of this, you can build logging so that you make sure that you can control all the requests that the developers and members of your organization are sending to the LLM. And traffic control, which is important because, as we said, these things are not cheap, right? And then on the other side of functionality, there's compliance and abuse prevention, which really goes a lot into guarding the prompts. And so like excluding like some filtering, what the users and developers in your organization can ask an LLM. But also in some cases with decorators or templates, enforce the structure of the request that is going to go to the LLM. And finally, like there's a couple of very cool plugins which are a little bit of a way of using AI without coding, because with the AI request transformer, request and response transformer, what you can do is you can apply some transformation to every request and every response. And the way you do it is you express as a prompt what is the type of change that you would want to see. And then we send it to an LLM provider that you specify so that they can apply the transformation that you requested to your request or response. And so imagine like one example could be you want to transform every indication of temperature that it's Fahrenheit in Celsius. You just write that prompt, we send the prompt and the request, for example, to the LLM provider, and they provide the transformation. Or, in other cases, you might want to filter out of a response anything that looks like a credit card. Same thing. You express in the prompt, filter out everything that looks like a credit card. We send that with the response to the LLM, does the filtering, and then we send back the filtered response. So yeah, there's in this one is just expanding the slides on really like all the things that can become better when you start using AI and with training of the models, but also like retrieval augmented generation to improve the quality of the response. But even like conversions, data enrichment, transformation, and sanitization can all go through the LLM itself and become better than just a developer writing in a procedural way, what should be changed and how, right? According to some definition of what's better and what should be replaced with what. There's we start to get like in these slides in some features that are coming, but we're almost there. So it's really like behind the corner. And this is where really like we start using LLMs to improve the quality of the application. And the first one is semantic caching, where if you used any Gen AI provider, one thing that you probably notice, like besides the fact that they can be very expensive, is that also the reply tend to be slow. A lot of them have implemented like streaming in the response so that at least when they start replying, you see like pieces of the text appearing in a sequence. But the times that it takes to get there, it's a little long. And the concept of semantic caching is, in many cases, the questions that a user might ask are similar and they have a similar response. And so, for example, if you ask how to cook a steak or how to cook a ribeye steak, you probably end up with a reply that is not very different. And in those cases, if you can, through an AI, understand what is the intention of the user, what is that they're trying to do, and establish a relation where you can say, well, these two questions are really similar. I already have a response for the first question. So rather than going back to the provider again and pay for the generation and wait for the generation, what I can do is just get the response that I have from a cache and serve it to the user because the question is pretty similar, right? And so this is what semantic caching is about, and it's a feature that is coming soon. Technically, like behind the hood, this work with embeddings, generation of embeddings. If you're not familiar with it, it's basically a representation of vectorial representation of concepts or sentences, and then storing those embeddings like and storing like those representation in a vector database, where then, for example, when the new question comes in, you can create an embedding of the new question, vector representation, do a vector search in the vector storage, calculating, is there anything that is near enough that I can consider it the same question? And if yes, what's the response? Fetch the response and give it back as a cache. So, pretty cool. Semantic routing is also a similar concept that it's very interesting because imagine that, you start having some different providers, or it could even be like you realize that some providers are really good at replying at certain like more generic question, but then for some questions that might be more specific to your domain, you want to build a model that it's your own model, that it's self-hosted, and make sure that all the questions that are in that domain go to that model. You could manually build a map of all these questions needs to go there, all these other question needs to go to the self-hosted model, or you could use semantic routing, where basically same thing, you try to understand what is the intention of the user, if it's a more generic question, route it to the LLM. If it's a question that is more specific to my domain, route it to my self-hosted model. And then, security and semantic firewalling, again, really gets the power of LLM like to the max, because if you think about that scenario where we were talking about earlier, where you might want to have some prompt filtering, where you filter out like some words, many cases like you would have to write very long lists of words and expression. With semantic firewalling, you can just express the intent, right? And so, for example, if it's a question about recipes, you might want to filter out any ingredients or any process that might lead to damage for the people that are actually like cooking that recipes, right? And this would be easier than, writing things like exclude nails or exclude glue or all the things that should never make it in a recipe. So when you sum all of this and all that we've been talking about, you really get to higher developer productivity, very simple ways of enforcing governance and compliance, because you have one place where you can do it, but also observability and ability to optimize your spend, because all the AI traffic is going through the gateway. And so like you can monitor everything, you can enforce policies, you can measure where the money is going, et cetera, et cetera. We talked about some of the features. We released in May the first set of plugins and the functionality that you can see like on the left. In June, we made some updates in terms of support of some specific LLMs providers. And again, very soon you will get some new stuff that it's really interesting. I think especially for me, like the whole semantic AI plugins area is really when we start getting like more and more benefits from using AI. And before we get into showing you a couple of docs and a couple of some simple demos that I had ready, our CTO and co-founder like Marco Palladino presented this idea that I think it's very interesting. On the left, you have what we were doing until a year ago, which is API-driven platforms where really we've been able to provide better and better experiences to users by simplifying the way that we were building code and using APIs and using different APIs specialized in providing different services and then combining them in applications in the way that we thought were more relevant and more interesting for the user. Now we are in the middle, which is the AI-enriched platform. So now we have applications that use API, and some of these API improve the quality of the service by using LLMs behind the curtain, right? So that they can produce better and better results. But really, like tomorrow is going to be AI-driven. Tomorrow, like we're going to be able to do things where based on the intention of a user in an application, the AI can combine different services that are provided by different APIs in the best way possible for the user. For me, like I worked in developer tools and developer documentations for a lot of years, and one of the use cases that is very interesting is whenever you go in a documentation site, can be the best documentation site in the world, but there's always like a lot of information, and you really need to find your way based on assumption that whoever put the documentation together made on the reader. What if I could just say something like, I know Java, I don't like Java. Let's say I know Rust, and I want to learn how to build an extension on your platform that will run in an API that I'm going to deploy on cloud provider X. And then, the site itself compose all the information and all the all the additional like tutorials and pre-made code and boilerplate for you, basically everything that you need to accomplish that task. I think in the documentation side, like we are starting to see that, a lot of docs out there now have some Gen AI features that can really do this thing for you. But the best thing I think will be when, through spec, we will be able to see software that writes software, where we are literally saying, I need you to connect from this language to this API and retrieve for me this information and transform it in this way, and then an LLM will generate all of that. It's gonna become really like super interesting, super cool, and super fun. So yeah, with all of that, before we get into the Q&A, let me just show you a couple of other things. And in order to do that, I wanted first to show you, oh, sorry. Okay. As I mentioned, it's the first time I'm doing this. So I haven't presented in a while also. If you want to get started with the AI Gateway, it's super easy. You can just Google like Kong AI Gateway, and you'll eventually land on this page. The one thing that is really cool, like there's a script that as long as you have Docker, you can just run this script. Depending on your internet connection, it will take some time, but that's really like the slower part. And then the script is gonna help you, guiding you through like installing and setting up some services for you, including like asking you API keys for the providers that we support, or if you have a Mistral or a Llama model that it's self-hosted, helping you like configure access to that. And then you will find yourself with a Kong gateway with the AI plugins enabled. And this is all available in the open source version. And the other thing that I wanted to show you is I had a couple of examples here in Insomnia. And in the first one, I'm really like just ignore like the request. I was playing with stuff earlier just to make sure that the reply to how to cook a steak and how to cook a ribeye steak was actually similar, and that I was not lying to you. I set up, and then I will show you the configuration. Well, actually, that script that I was showing you set all of these up for me. And so now I'm trying to send this request to OpenAI, where it's really like, what is Kong? And assume that my role is a user. And here, like, you could try to add any role that you would want the LLM to assume while generating an AI. I don't know if you ever tried this. It makes a lot of difference if you tell the AI, like, from which point of view it should generate a response. So now if I send this, you will see that I exceeded my quota. And it's actually, long story short, I cannot add the payment method to OpenAI because I don't have a credit card at the moment, right? So what can I do? I'm lost. No, because I can just change the URL. This is a route that is configured in Kong, and I will show you to you in a second. And now just by doing this, I'm just gonna send this to Cohere, right? Another LLM provider. As we discussed earlier, it's gonna take some time, but now I have my response. And I didn't have to change anything. I just had to change the URL, and this is something that you can also manage in other ways, like changing the host in the header and configuring Kong to serve from a different host. So if you want to see like how this works in the configuration, just let me go back here, where this is the Kong manager. So this is the UI for the configuration of the gateway. You can see I'm not lying to you. This is just the free one. And if you go to the routes, you would see that I have the one that I was trying to use that was failing, that is the one that routes to OpenAI, is this one. And then I just changed it to this Cohere chat. And just by doing this, I changed the LLM providers without changing at all my request, right? And as I was mentioning, like you could also route in a different way by using, for example, the host header and assign a different value to OpenAI and go here. The second thing that I wanted to show you is I set up another plugin to do one thing that is very important, which is imagine that I want to ask, do you like pineapple on pizza? So now if I try to do this, immediately says bad request, because this is a bad thing to ask. Nobody should ask this. You know, there is no pineapple on pizza, and there never will be. And so I'm just joking, honestly. Like I'm Italian. I need to assume the role of the person that eats the pineapple on the pizza. I actually like it in some cases, but it's with jalapenos. I like it with jalapenos. So what I did there is if we get into the Cohere route, now you can see that, oops, sorry, not here. I put it at the service level. So I configured this really. All I did in this case was expressing a deny pattern that now it's saying, if anything contains pineapple on pizza, don't let it go through, right? But this is also, if you remember when I was talking about doing this like with semantic firewalling, this is where it becomes interesting, right? Because in this case, like I have to write pineapple on pizza and a long list of ingredients, for example, like chicken. What I really want to say is filter out anything that an Italian would never put on a pizza, right? And then you get pineapple, barbecue sauce, ketchup, chicken. The list is really long. And I hope I'm not surprising you there. If you want to know more about the AI plugins, just go to docs.congethu.com/hub, and you will find like all the AI plugins that are currently available. The ones that I show you now are the basic AI proxy, so the thing that really allows you more easily to support different providers. And then this AI prompt guard, but there's a bunch more, and maybe like one thing that I can show you, just this AI response transformer is the one that I was telling you, like allow you to do a bit of the low code changes. And if you see the examples here, for example, in this case, the prompt is for any city name, put the country that's in brackets next to it. Reply with only the transformation, with only the JSON result. And then here is how you can configure like where to send it. So for example, like Azure or OpenAI or whichever provider you want to use. And then this will automatically apply the transformation to your response. So this is it. And with this, I'm now gonna try to figure out how to share the Q&A.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Silvano. I think we have one question currently in the Q&A.
Let's say. So is it okay if, okay, now I think I might share. Okay, now you should see it, right?
Yeah, we see your screen.
Yeah, can we apply DLP via AI gateway? I am blanking out on the acronym. Whomever asked the question, like, if you can you spell out the acronym for me?
You mean DLP? Okay.
Can we filter PII data? Yeah. So I mean, in a sense, you would rely on the ability of the LLM to filter out the PII data. But you could also like use create your own model that can do like that filtering in the right way, and then basically like direct to that model. This is the reply for today. Filtering out PII, especially like when it comes to ABI, is a very important use case. So I would say, stay tuned because maybe you'll see something. You said that AI will transform ABI in requests and response. How can we be so sure it will be correct? Yeah, I mean that it's also like a little bit of with AI, like you never know exactly what you are getting. Which when I was working on trying to build products based on it, one thing that was very surprising for me, because it's non-deterministic. If you ask the same thing 10 times, there is no guarantee that you will get the same response 10 times. I think with the AI plugins, like we are giving you like all the infrastructures that you need to perform an evaluation of the quality, and then route based on where you see that you get better results and better responses. And not just this, but also like other parameters. Like at some point, you might even want to find a trade-off between quality and cost, right? And express like some level of threshold where you pay enough, but not too much. You get quality that is good, and it's the best sort of compromise. Do you think blockchain could be a better way to store AI information for more secure platform? One of the things I really don't know almost anything about blockchain, so I don't know. I cannot really answer to this question. Sorry.
We have, I think, one question in the chat as well from Timothy.
I don't know how to get the Zoom. Okay, here. From the slides, it appears that the Kong API gateway can be configured to issue request calls based on the AI response to downstream app. Can you confirm? So I'm trying to understand the question. I'm not sure I request call based. I mean, so I understand the part with the downstream apps in the sense that most of what I was showing is it goes the other way, right? So it's yeah, okay. Yeah, if you want to chat with the yes, that's good. But the reply that I can give you now, it goes from the application to the LLM, and then the gateway is in the middle, like routing the request in routing, filtering in different ways, like to the different providers that you can have, like whether it's a LLM. It's essentially like routing to the different LLMs or self-hosted models, and then in between apply a series of optimizations or transformation based on some criteria that you express. But then the reply goes back to the application downstream. So that's the part that I'm not sure I understanding. And yeah, please follow the suggestion. Join communityslack.com and any questions that I couldn't ask, that I couldn't reply, please ask it there.
Exactly.
And somebody else will jump on it.
Yeah, and one more in the Q&A.
Okay. I don't see the Q&A. Okay, just yeah, so that's coming. How can we route to different models based on some context? Stay tuned. Those features are coming. It was the semantic
Amazing.
routing. Soon.
Okay.
Very soon.
Amazing. Thank you, Timothy, as well. Yes, please follow up on the Slack channel, and hopefully we can help you there. Cool. Any last questions for Silvano before we wrap it up? You can expect the follow-up email in a few hours with some resources and the recording. So yeah, keep an eye on your emails. And yeah, if there are no other questions, thank you so much, Silvano, for presenting, for answering the questions. We were very happy to have you here. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And yeah, we hope to see you at our next webinars sometime. I hope you have a good evening, good day, and yeah, see you soon. Bye-bye.